This explainer video provides an overview of the most important aspects of INPAG Exposure Draft 1, Section 35, Narrative Reporting. Narrative reporting is an aspect of the guidance that is aimed at a broad audience, from resource providers and the public that benefit from the services and goods provided by non-profit organizations through to financial accountants, auditors and standard setters. The issues that this section covers are important for everyone who has an interest in INPAG, and this explainer video aims to make them accessible to a broad range of stakeholders. INPAG requires that NPOs prepare general-purpose financial reports. General-purpose financial reports show narrative reporting alongside financial information contained in the general-purpose financial statements. Narrative reporting enhances, complements and supplements the core financial information presented in the financial statements to fully describe an NPO's performance. The objective of general-purpose financial reports is to be useful to users for accountability and decision-making. They can achieve this by providing financial information about the NPO's assets, liabilities, income and expenses, as well as non-financial information through narrative reporting. INPAG therefore requires that as a minimum, NPOs show performance information and financial statement commentary in the same general-purpose financial report as its financial statements. The narrative information presented must be for the same NPO and reporting period as the financial statements. When selecting and presenting narrative information, NPOs are required to apply the same qualitative characteristics and pervasive constraints applicable to information included in the financial statements. Applying the qualitative characteristics means that the narrative report should meet the following criteria. It should provide a faithful representation of the NPO's operations and activities. It should contain relevant information that is capable of making a difference in the decisions made by users, that is, information that is material. The information should be comparable between reporting periods, verifiable, and provided on a timely basis. And it should be understandable by the users of the general-purpose financial reports. In addition, NPOs are required to ensure that the performance information and financial statement commentary presented is fair and balanced. This means it needs to be an objective view, and not biased in a way that does not reflect reality. In making a judgment on whether the narrative report is fair and balanced, the INPAG implementation guidance states that NPOs should consider questions such as these. Does the report overstate what has been achieved? Is there too much focus on successes, to the exclusion of activities that were less successful? Is the reporting deliberately selective, with items omitted to portray a particular view of activities or financial position? And does the report present the information in its proper context? In exceptional circumstances, INPAG provides that NPOs are permitted to not disclose sensitive information. Sensitive information relates to aspects of the narrative report that, if publicly disclosed, would compromise the safety or well-being of individuals working and volunteering for the NPO, or those to whom it provides goods and services, or could otherwise prejudice the ability of the NPO to deliver its mission. Given the diversity of objectives of NPOs, it is not possible to provide a definition or exhaustive list of the activities that could give rise to such information. This exemption is intended to include situations where there is a risk, including of physical harm, to an NPO's staff, volunteers, or those who engage with the NPO, or situations that would provoke significant ongoing disruption to the NPO's operating activities. Examples of sensitive or mission-prejudicial information could include information that identifies the nature of activities being undertaken, information that discloses the scope of geographic activities, or information that identifies the individuals, communities, or groups that benefit from the services and goods provided. NPOs are required to state in the narrative report that this exception has been used. They should disclose that the report has been prepared in accordance with the relevant paragraph in INPAG. No information is required that would have the effect of highlighting the nature or substance of the sensitive information. This exception may not be used to hide poor performance or other problems. Provided the exception is used correctly, an NPO will remain in compliance with the requirements of INPAG. INPAG makes reporting certain information mandatory. This mandatory requirement focuses on performance information and commentary on the financial statements. INPAG requires an NPO to present its performance objectives and what it has done during the reporting period in working towards those performance objectives, and also to provide commentary that discusses and analyzes the NPO's financial statements. In presenting performance information and financial statement commentary, NPOs are required to provide the following information: an overview of the NPO, performance information, financial objectives and strategies, an analysis of the financial statements, and risks and uncertainties. We will look at the suggested content for each of these areas in turn. The overview should help answer these key questions about the NPO. Who we are. This would include a description of the NPO's legal form, operational or organizational structure, and its governance arrangements. What we exist for. This would include a description of the NPO's purpose, its key objectives, who it is seeking to help, and the outcomes and impact it is looking to achieve. And what we do. This would include a description of the NPO's main activities, the environment in which it operates, the services and goods it delivers, and how it works with other entities to achieve its objectives. Performance information is intended to enable users to understand the NPO's performance objectives and targets, what it has done in working towards those objectives, and what it has achieved during the reporting period. Performance objectives should be linked to the discussion in the overview section on what the NPO exists for. Performance objectives are expected to be derived from the purpose of the NPO. This section should indicate what the NPO intends to achieve, both now and in the longer term, and describe how the NPO plans to meet these objectives. NPOs will need to exercise judgment to ensure they are providing information that is useful to users. NPOs should focus on the activities or objectives that are being monitored by the NPO's management, so there is alignment with internal governance. Performance objectives should not be created purely for the purpose of the narrative report. Performance measures and descriptions that demonstrate what has been achieved will depend on the NPO and its performance objectives. Information may be quantitative or qualitative, numerical or descriptive. Quantitative measures provide a numerical measurement to assess performance. For example, the quantity of a good provided, such as 10,000 emergency medical packs. Qualitative measures provide a non-numerical measurement by which to assess performance. For example, whether service users rated an intervention as high, medium, or low quality. Qualitative descriptions provide a non-numerical description by which to assess performance. For example, descriptions from interviews of individuals supported by an NPO. NPOs should report on their financial objectives and strategies. Note that this differs from the previous section on performance objectives. In this section, NPOs should discuss their objectives and strategies relating to financial position, income and expenses, components of net assets and cash flows. The narrative description should be done in a way that enables users to understand the NPO's financial objectives and strategies, the resources that must be managed by the NPO to achieve them, and how these financial objectives and strategies support the achievement of the NPO's performance objectives. Given that NPOs exist primarily to deliver a benefit to the public, rather than to generate financial returns for investors, financial objectives and strategies are likely to be derived from the NPO's performance objectives. Financial objectives may, for example, be around improving financial resilience or growing resources. Where relevant, An NPO should also discuss significant changes in its financial objectives and strategies from the previous periods, and the impact this may have on the achievement of its performance objectives. NPOs are required to provide an analysis of significant changes and trends. For example, trends in financial position, income and expenses, components of net assets, or cash flows. Judgment should be applied to ensure a focus on significant and important items in the financial statements. The NPO should not simply repeat the information presented in the financial statements. The aim is to provide context for users, so that the financial statements can be more useful for accountability and decision-making purposes. If, for analysis purposes, any adjustments are made to information from the financial statements, these adjustments must be disclosed. The nature of the adjustments and reasons for making them must also be disclosed. As part of this financial statement analysis, the NPO should also provide information on any impact on the achievement of its performance objectives. Now, to the final area that an NPO must cover in its narrative report: the principal risks and uncertainties that affect the achievement of its performance objectives and its financial objectives. Principal risks and uncertainties are those that could significantly disrupt the ability of the NPO to achieve its objectives, either performance or financial objectives. This will include, but is not limited to, how the NPO works with others to deliver its main activities. Changes to the political, legal or regulatory environment. Changes to the physical environment. Changes to the economic environment. Reliance on volunteers. Reliance on certain donors. Capacity and capability of NPO resources, and the NPO's ability to generate and manage financial resources, or its operations and governance. In describing risks and uncertainties, NPOs should provide an explanation of how they relate to the performance objectives and financial objectives. An explanation of changes in those risks and uncertainties since the last reporting date. And a description of how the NPO manages them. When considering presentational issues, narrative reporting should be written using clear, simple language and presented in a way that supports users' understanding. It should be clearly identified and distinguished from the financial statements. The narrative report may include the use of tables, graphics and pictorial methods, as well as case studies. It can also include feedback from those that benefit from the goods and services it provides. Cross-referencing to the financial statements will help users to understand and assess the performance information and financial statement commentary in the narrative report. The usefulness to users will also be improved by providing comparative information for at least the preceding reporting period. Consistency over time is also helpful, both in terms of what is reported and how it is reported. Where changes are made to what or how an NPO reports in its performance information and financial statement commentary, the reasons for the changes, and the nature and effect of these changes should be explained to users. This mandatory core of narrative reporting is the minimum that an NPO must report. An NPO may choose to present additional information in its general-purpose financial report, beyond this minimum requirement, to enhance usefulness for the users of the financial report. This could include, for example, climate-related disclosures and broader sustainability reporting. NPOs also have the freedom to report using other frameworks, such as integrated reporting, provided that the minimum mandatory core is covered by these frameworks. Where an NPO does provide additional information or reports using a different narrative reporting framework, it should be presented in compliance with the requirements of INPAG as far as possible. In particular, it should comply with requirements relating to principles, presentation, comparative information, consistency of reporting, and disclosure of judgments. This explainer video has provided an overview of the most important aspects of INPAG Exposure Draft 1, Section 35 Narrative Reporting. It has highlighted requirements for NPOs to present a minimum mandatory core of performance information and financial statement commentary in the same general-purpose financial report as its financial statements. It has examined the principles applicable to the information selected and presented. This includes the requirement to apply the same qualitative characteristics and pervasive constraints on information applicable to the financial statements. It also includes the permission, exceptionally, to not disclose sensitive information. It has highlighted presentational issues that aim to support NPOs in ensuring that their narrative report is presented in a way that supports users' understanding. Finally, it looked at the guidance INPAG provides to support NPOs that choose to present additional information beyond the minimum requirement, including the use of other frameworks. You are welcome to share your views on any aspect of INPAG Exposure Draft 1. We have set out these specific questions that we are particularly keen to get your feedback on. They relate to the principles, the scope, exclusions, and transition arrangements. To respond, visit www.ifrfornpo.org/have-your-say. Download a template response document and upload your completed response or comment letter. Responses must be in English. The deadline is the 31st of March 2023.